So we made it to the cinema again this week and we had a huge selection of 8 films to pick from. So of course I picked the movie I only 2 days earlier told a friend I was definitely not watching because it had Gerard Butler in it and he just does awful movies. So yeah, we watched Greenland purely because it has the delightful Morena Baccarin in it. So was this like 2017's Geostorm and entirely awful, or was it a decent watch? John Garrity, played by Gerard Butler, his estranged wife, played by Morena Baccarin, and their young son, played by the most annoying person alive, embark on a perilous journey to find sanctuary as a planet-killing comet hurtles toward Earth. Amid terrifying accounts of cities being leveled, the Garritys experience the best and worst in humanity. As the countdown to the global apocalypse approaches zero, their incredible trek culminates in a desperate and last-minute flight to a possible safe haven. Okay, so the way that 2020 is going, this is probably more a documentary sent from the future to warn us about how this year is actually going to end. Because yeah, 2020 has sucked. And I seem to remember a few months ago, there were articles out there saying that there was a comet or an asteroid that had a 1% chance of hitting Earth. That is essentially the entire plotline for this movie. That asteroid, although it's a comet in this movie, which doesn't make much sense, but I'll get to that later, is going to destroy the Earth. So yeah, I guess we've got that to look forward to. So this is less a disaster movie because I don't think they had the budget to go full out with all the comets slamming into the Earth. So they've gone rather sensibly smaller scale, just focusing on the family and how civilization would crumble if the world did have 48 hours to live. Basically, everybody's going to die in 48 hours unless you can get to one of these safe havens. And so basically this film is just dealing with that, how civilization would crumble around you if we had 48 hours to survive. Toilet paper is definitely run out. I mean, we've already seen that once this year. Gerard Butler plays Gerard Butler because he has the acting range of Gerard Butler, which isn't that bad in this movie because at least they made the sensible decision to make him an engineer, which is slightly more believable than him being a world-class scientist like in Geostorm. Morena Baccarin is, as always, great. She's in so many things that I love. Firefly, V, Gotham. She's in so many great TV shows, and it's nice to see her on the big screen for once, and she's awesome as a mother in this. The only problem with them focusing on the family is the fact that the child is really, really annoying. Like most children in these disaster movies, he is a walking cliche of idiocy, stupidity, crying, screaming, asking stupid questions, causing problems for the adults. Why? Why, writers? The movie, because it doesn't just focus on the disaster aspects for like the first 2 acts, does tend to kind of stay away from the cliches other than the child, who is a walking disaster movie cliche, until the final act, when it does just fall into the typical disaster movie cliches where we've got 10 hours to make it to some place, otherwise we're all gonna die. The effects are a little bit cheap. There are some effects in this movie that will have you kind of rolling your eyes as if you're like, yeah, that's definitely not really happening. That's a definite computer effect. And the comet in some of the pictures, I swear, is just a still Google searched image. I mean, it's high resolution, but it's still just a still Google searched image. And that actually, the biggest problem with this movie is the science. There is some real dumb science in this. So there are a couple of lines that really sort of took me out of the movie. Firstly, they say, the only difference between a comet and an asteroid is the speed that they travel. Now, I'm no expert, but I don't think that's true. If you are an expert, please let me know if I'm wrong in the comments. But I'm pretty sure that is not true. They also then go on to say that the debris field, the corona tail of the comet, is so massive that we can't even see the end of it. What? What? Of course we'd be able to see the end of it. They clearly show the end of it in when they show the images of the comet in the sky. It's like one of the dumbest lines I've ever seen in any movie ever. But anyway, I digress. So then, when the comet actually hits the Earth, it is my understanding that comets are ice and dust. Now what does ice and dust not really do very well with? Yeah, heat. Which, when you enter the Earth's atmosphere, there's a huge amount of heat. So I don't even care if something is 10 miles wide. It would probably just melt. A 10-mile wide ice cube, which is technically what a comet is just gonna melt. It's not gonna destroy the Earth. You need an asteroid, not a comet. So the entire sort of premise of this movie is dumb as hell, but I did enjoy it, strangely enough. I mean, as far as these movies go, as far as these sort of late stage Gerard Butler movie, disaster movie, middle of the road budget movies that Gerard Butler's agent seems to get him into constantly, this is one of the better ones. So yeah, the way this year is probably going, this is more a documentary than a work of fiction, and is showing us how our civilization is about to end in the next 4 months. It's not bad as far as these mid-budget disaster movies that Gerard Butler has made a career out of, and you know, it's pretty good. It's a definite recommendation if you see it on a streaming site. Probably wouldn't go out of your way to watch it at the cinema, but it's getting 3 out of 5 stars from me because, you know, it's alright, it's not bad.